We're kicking off with Raw, where the Usos and Sami Zayn approached Seth Rollins ahead of his match with Bronson Reed and once again asked him to join the original Bloodline inside Wargames. The OG group will face Solo Sikoa's group this month, and despite Reed joining Solo on the latest SmackDown, Rollins once again refused to ever team with Roman Reigns. Jay said they all have issues with Reigns and even each other, but they're trying to put those differences aside just to make it work and take down the new Bloodline. Zayn spoke about Rollins putting his differences with Cody Rhodes aside last year in Wargames to stand with Zayn and Jay, and asked him to do the same this year. Rollins said he'd stand by any of them, but would never, under any circumstances, stand side by side with Roman Reigns again, even calling his Shield brother a tyrant. Rollins said it hurt him to say no for a lot of reasons, especially as he'd love to get his hands on Reed in the double cage, but was sure he'd handle Reed for all of them on Raw. The former World Heavyweight Champion walked away from the OG Bloodline, leaving the faction still needing a fifth member for their team ahead of Wargames. The main event of Raw, as previously advertised, saw Seth Rollins take on Bronson Reed in a rematch from Crown Jewel, where Rollins got the win. This week, Rollins was ready to finish Reed off from the top rope, but Solo Sikoa interrupted proceedings and taunted the Visionary from the announce table. This distraction was all Reed needed as he slammed Seth with a Death Valley driver and 2 crushing sentons before hitting his top rope tsunami to score the decisive victory. Solo stood by Reed's side, raising the Australian's arm in celebration as the show finished, and this match was another strong effort by both competitors. The big, nasty, unstoppable force versus the faster, more technically sound and fiery babyface is a formula that always works, and Reed looked like a world beater despite the interference. Rollins was relentless in his pursuit of victory, and the result was a roller coaster ride that fans could invest in all the way up to the finish, and Reed wasn't finished after the show. On social media, Reed mocked Rollins and the Shield's loyal fans, posting Sierra Hotel India Tango in a nod to the famed Shield call sign, albeit with a more un-PG message. Reed carried on, adding, "I hope all you Seth suckers and Roman rump munchers cry about it. Right now, I'm in control," and fans were sent into a frenzy with the post. Whether this was a one-time taunt or a power play to set up future drama, Reed is owning his moment in the spotlight and is proving to be a monster on the mic and the keyboard as well as in the ring. Now, the Judgment Day has been a dominant force since first coming together in 2022, but recently there have been brewing tensions between Finn Balor and Dominik Mysterio. These issues stem from Dominik having his sights on the World Heavyweight title, a goal Balor also has his eyes on, and this tension isn't just happening on TV. Adding fuel to speculation, Balor shared an Instagram post featuring only himself, JD McDonough, and Carlito, calling them the Judgment Day, in a snub of Mysterio, Liv Morgan, and Raquel Rodriguez. This snub certainly suggests that Balor is ready to exclude the 3 missing faction members, but nothing is confirmed yet, though Balor did make a huge power play during this week's Raw. In a backstage segment, Balor suggested he take over the group for the night, to which Morgan agreed, and Finn would immediately turn around and point at Dominik Mysterio. While it started off as a pep talk, it seemingly turned into Balor trying to undermine the confidence of Dom and Carlito ahead of their tag team match with the War Raiders. The Raiders have been one of the top teams in WWE's tag division for years, but it's been 4 years since they held tag gold and faced a major setback when Eric injured himself last year. Ivar competed in singles matches until he was took out of action with an injury, but now the pair are back together and reunited on the October 7th edition of Raw. The pair entered the World Tag Team Titles Contender Tournament, which they won to earn a match with the Judgment Day, and got the win this week over Mysterio and Carlito. After the match, Balor and JD McDonough attacked the victors, leaving them lying in an attempt to build heat for a match that will likely be excellent, even if it lacks the anticipation one would hope for. Triple H and co have done everything right with the War Raiders, though it's been a struggle to get fans to invest, which showed here in a perfectly acceptable match that struggled to win over fans. What do you make of the War Raiders' booking since returning? Should they dethrone the Judgment Day to be taken seriously? Will they be lost in the shuffle if they don't? Give your thoughts below. A video package showed The Miz talking and thinking about the kidnapping he experienced at the hands of the Wyatt Six before laughing at the idea that the group could change him. Miz and Karrion Kross spoke about beating down the Wyatt Six last week, showing that the group is not invincible and saying this is a game that Kross writes the rules for. The confidence was in spades between the two in this segment, which also saw The Miz hint at the Marine 7, a fun nod given that his character was killed by Becky Lynch's character in the last film. Kross finished the promo with the classic tick-tock, which we haven't heard from him as of late, and shows that the pair are ready to wage war with the Wyatt Six after last week's beatdown. As expected, a response came during this week's Raw from the Wyatt Six as a new VHS-style vignette was aired featuring none other than Bo Dallas. Viewers were instantly transported back to October 2013 with footage of the Wyatt family, which was Bray, Eric Rowan, and Luke Harper at the time, ambushing The Miz. This was complete with the unforgettable moment when Liar was sprawled on his chest, and Bo called out The Miz for breaking his promise to change, saying, "You chose this." With his unique and unsettling delivery, Dallas said that your hands will forever be bloodstained because of your actions. You'll lose what matters most in a chilling warning. The Miz's betrayal won't go unpunished, as he betrayed his promise to the Wyatt Six that he would change, a promise that allowed him to be released from their kidnapping. Promises, whether in wrestling or not, are fragile things, and The Miz wasted no time in shattering his word by aligning with the Final Testament last week. During his video package on Raw, Miz gloated, saying he deserved an Oscar for his performance as he showed no remorse for going back on his vow to change for the better. But with Bo Dallas's eerie warning echoing in the air, it's clear The Miz's drama might be far from over, and it'll test how strong Karrion Kross's loyalty to the A-lister really is. What do you think will happen next in this dark saga between The Miz and the Wyatt Six? Will Dallas and his crew exact their revenge? Share your thoughts and feedback in the comments section below. On January 6th, WWE Raw will debut on Netflix, and the show is shaping up to be a spectacle that could rival a major premium live event from the company. The excitement around the show is palpable, and now there's even more reason to tune in, as mature content is making a comeback to the show. Netflix, which is already home to a dedicated section of WWE programming, already has a section for Raw, and the show has received a TV-14 rating. But what does this mean? Well, while it won't signal a full return to the edgy, raucous Attitude Era, fans can expect a shift towards more uncensored promos and bolder angles. This development signals a new era where WWE has more creative freedom to push the envelope in a way that network TV simply wouldn't allow for the show and its roster. One notable example is The Rock, whose electrifying promos were sometimes muted or edited on Fox and the USA Network, but with Netflix, that censorship barrier is lifted. This will give stars like The Rock and others the green light to let loose without restrictions, and WWE isn't holding back when it comes to star power for Raw's big move. WWE has confirmed top names like John Cena, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Bianca Belair for the premiere show, but that isn't a sign of major changes. PW Insider has confirmed that Roman and Rhodes aren't leaving SmackDown to go to Raw, but their role is just WWE doing everything they can to make the debut show important. What are your thoughts on WWE's move to Netflix and the TV-14 rating? Are you excited for the possibility of more mature content? Please share your thoughts and feedback down below. Back to Raw as the stage is set for a women's Wargames match at Survivor Series in a segment which began with Women's World Champion Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. The pair were joined by Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, and Candice LeRae, and it wasn't long before Bianca Belair's music interrupted the quintet of heels. Belair, Jade Cargill, and Naomi came out, and Belair noted that they didn't come alone, bringing out Io Sky, who is set to challenge Morgan for the title one day. Morgan pointed out that the faces were still outnumbered and asked who wanted to throw the first punch, a question that was answered with the music of Rhea Ripley. Mommy came out wearing a face mask to cover her broken orbital bone, which in storyline was caused by an attack at NXT by Morgan and Rodriguez, who had a baseball bat. Ripley screamed "Wargames" in Liv's face before hitting her with a headbutt, and this brawl ended with the faces standing tall in the middle of the ring. This women's Wargames match will be an exciting bout, and fans won't have to wait long to see who will have the entry order advantage when the two sides do battle. On next week's Raw, the go-home show before Survivor Series, Bianca Belair will face Nia Jax to see who gains the advantage in the Wargames match later that week. The advantage is that whoever wins, their team will have the first entry into Wargames, meaning they'll always have one more member in the cage than their opponents or have an even number. The advantage is no small deal, as having the numbers in Wargames could make all the difference, and with Belair and Jax being powerhouses with a lot on the line, fans know neither will back down. As for who will walk away with the edge, that remains to be seen, but expect next week's Raw to be must-watch as fans await to see who has the order entry advantage inside War Games. The last time fans saw Alexa Bliss in the ring, it was at the 2023 Royal Rumble event, and in November of that year, she welcomed her daughter Hendrix into the world. Bliss has been focused on her new role as a parent alongside husband Ryan Cabrera, but this week shared some of the challenges she's faced on this journey. In a tweet that sparked hope among her fans, Bliss asked, "Where's Alexa?" with a gif of a woman searching with a magnifying glass, which fans took as a tease of her return. Not everyone was convinced though, as one fan said Bliss didn't care to come back, adding that they'd been asking where Bliss had been for the last 2 years. Bliss clapped back with a powerful response, making clear that her hiatus was far from voluntary, as she'd been dealing with skin cancer removal during her time away. The former women's champion had also obviously dealt with her pregnancy, but shared that she'd faced preeclampsia and postpartum health conditions back-to-back as well. To say Bliss simply doesn't care about returning is a gross mischaracterization, and Bliss gave a reassuring update saying she had been dealing with issues when was all good now. With this, fans have even more reason to be excited about Bliss's potential return, and she's hinted at revisiting past gimmicks and has even caught the attention of Karrion Kross. The Final Testament leader has shown interest in Bliss joining his faction, and while the exact time of her return is unclear, fans are eagerly awaiting the return of the goddess. What do you think about Bliss's journey and her potential WWE comeback? Are you excited to see her return to the ring? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Gunther had a plan to blindside Damian Priest on this week's Raw, but it did not come to fruition, and it was the World Heavyweight Champion who was left lying on the floor in the end. The two men will face off at Survivor Series in a title match, with Priest earning his rematch with the Austrian by winning a Fatal 4-Way #1 Contenders match. The segment saw Gunther ask Ludwig Kaiser if he still saw the old ring general when he looked at him, and Kaiser said he did and nothing had changed. In a segment, Gunther grabbed Priest while the latter was signing autographs and locked him in a sleeper hold, but Damian pushed the heel onto a big box. After an attempted strike with a steel pipe, Priest kicked Gunther in the midsection and said that while the champ may be a ring general, he's the king of the streets. This was an effective segment that continued to show the creeping self-doubt in the champion, which will make the title match at Survivor Series all the more compelling. Ludwig Kaiser has been a loyal soldier to Gunther before either man arrived in WWE, and this loyalty continues to this day on the main roster, where Kaiser has Gunther's back. However, on Raw, Gunther seemingly set Kaiser free to be his own man and told him to make a name for himself, and the German picked the perfect match to do just that. Later in the show, Sheamus challenged Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental Championship, the one title that has eluded Sheamus in WWE and kept him from the Grand Slam. If he won, he'd join legends like Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and The Big Show, so the stakes were incredibly high for the Celtic Warrior going into this match. In a grueling, hard-hitting showdown, Breaker threw his body around the ring in his efforts to keep the gold, while Sheamus tried to achieve his one final accolade in pro wrestling. A knee strike to the face of a charging Breaker resulted in a close 2 count. Breaker answered with a spear but was unable to take advantage of it. It was late in the match that Kaiser interrupted with a clothesline to Breaker and sent Sheamus into the steel steps, ending the match in a DQ with an unsatisfactory finish. Kaiser yelled at the fallen Sheamus, telling him, "I told you I won't stop until you're gone for good," to conclude an excellent match that really deserved a better finish. With that said, it put emphasis on Kaiser, and if the goal is to introduce him into the Intercontinental title picture and let him work consistently with Sheamus and Breaker, nothing about that sounds like a bad idea. Is it time for Sheamus to finally get the Intercontinental title win fans are itching to see? Did WWE make a mistake by it not happening this week? Share your thoughts in the comments section. Now, Swerve Strickland has been unstoppable this year, reigning as AEW World Champion and delivering countless unforgettable moments. However, with his high-stakes match against Bobby Lashley at Full Gear fast approaching, fans are suddenly worried about his condition. Strickland recently sparked concern by sharing an X-ray image on social media that hints at a potential injury. In the post, Strickland revealed an X-ray showing what looks like a dislocated collarbone, captioned, "These Hurt Syndicate beatings take a toll." While the image suggests a serious issue, AEW has yet to release any official statement regarding his health or match status. As the Full Gear match approaches, fans are hopeful that Swerve will still be able to face Lashley in the ring. However, his health comes first, and any injury could take priority over his current feud. For now, all eyes are on AEW for an update on whether this highly anticipated clash will go forward as planned. What do you think about Swerve's situation? Should he push through and compete, or prioritize his recovery? Share your thoughts in the comments. We've got some sad news to report now, as WWE Hall of Famer Rey Mysterio is mourning the loss of his father Roberto, who died on November 17th. On social media, Mysterio paid tribute to his father, saying that he set the example of how to maintain a strong marriage and how to be a father, as Roberto had 4 boys. Rey described his dad as an excellent husband, loving father, beautiful grandfather, incredible son and brother, and amazing father-in-law, in a touching tribute to Roberto Gutierrez. This is obviously a sad time for the Mysterio family, as Rey has lost a father, while Dominik and Aaliyah have lost their grandfather, and we are sending our best to the family at this time. More from Raw, where Rey Mysterio and Zelina Vega faced American Maids Chad Gable and Ivy Nile, and despite plenty of promise, the action hasn't done too well in results. The trend continued on this week's show, and after Gable was pinned by Rey, the Olympian appeared to show Brutus and Julius Creed, who then started shoving each other. What started as a breakup tease ended with them being more motivated than ever, and hopefully this leads to better results than ever for American Made. Many fans have argued that the biggest disappointment of this year's WWE TV has been the lack of progress of Chad Gable, who showed signs of brilliance this year. There were teases of him taking the next step, but instead he's felt largely stagnant in his stacked roster, despite having a heel turn and his own group. Hopefully this will be the start of things changing for him, and here's hoping that the Creed brothers and Ivy Nile also benefit in a big way going forward. But what do you make of the handling of American Made? What do you want to see next for the group? Share your thoughts in the comments section. Now, it's no secret that the Street Profits are far from pleased with their current roles in WWE, especially following the departure of Bobby Lashley earlier this year. Ford especially has spoken about feeling like things have not been progressing, and while some fans may think they could do better elsewhere, that won't be happening just yet. According to PW Insider, both Ford and Dawkins are locked into solid WWE contracts, and the consensus behind the scenes is that their discontent may have a strategy behind it. Sources say that the comments about their unhappiness are likely designed to garner attention more than anything else, and the Profits are leaning into the drama to build hype. WWE is all in on this play, which has seen Ford and Dawkins amp up their game lately on SmackDown with fiery promos that showcase a more serious side. While some comments have teased the pair leaving, insiders say there's no chatter about Ford or Dawkins making an exit. If anything, they're prepping for a bigger spotlight. It's been years since the Street Profits last held gold in WWE, and many hope to see that change soon, and don't count out exactly that and much more for the popular duo. A video package aired highlighting Dakota Kai on this week's Raw after the Damage Control member returned to the ring last week. Kai spoke about her injury and returning with a desire to be a champion, and are you interested in seeing Kai win gold? Let us know down below. More from Raw, as the New Day will look to put their issues aside again next week when Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods take on Alpha Academy's Otis and Akira Tozawa. In a backstage segment this week, Woods confidently hinted that a win would get us back on track, and both teams have plenty to prove with high-energy action next week. Do you think a win next week will mend the issues in the New Day, or will a loss to Alpha Academy cause Kofi and Woods to split for good? Give your predictions below. And that was this week's Raw, and while we did cover the results in last week's video, as the show was taped in advance, we didn't review the show in full at the time. Now we've been able to give a thorough, in-depth analysis to the show, and what did you think of Raw? Let us know below, and thanks for watching.